Sir, we are in live. Good to go.
Dr. Rishendra Verma. Dr. Verma, you can unmute yourself.
As many of us are aware that the tripartite executive committee, including the FAO, WHO, and OI, have decided that 18th and 20th, 24th November of each year should be taken as to create the antimicrobial awareness week. And the slogan they have assigned for 2020 is antimicrobials handled with care. And the theme they have selected for the human sector, united to preserve antimicrobials. And here it is pertinent to mention that there is no mention about the veterinary sector theme. So this group can also think of suggesting some theme for veterinary sector. Either we may inform to the OI, WHO, FAO, or we may propagate either through INFAH or the IAVR and the others. And you well appreciate that this word antimicrobial awareness week is aimed only to increase the awareness of global antimicrobial resistance and to increase best practices among the general public, policymakers, health workers to avoid the further emergence of the drug-resistant infections and its spread. IAVR is one of the member of the Federation of Asian Veterinary Association. And in the recent council meeting, the WHO has assigned the activity to the FEVA also. And that is why IAVR has requested you all to be with us and to share our expertise on the antimicrobials in Indian perspective and to be listed in the world this awareness week. With these remarks, now I pass it on to Mr. Teng, my co-host.
Thank you, Dr. Rishendra Verma. Good morning to all of you. It's a matter of privilege for all of us to be associated with IAVR. I'm thankful very especially to Dr. Rishendra Verma for taking this initiative to hold this webinar. I think in a very short span of few days, 4 or 5 days, he wanted that we must organize and create awareness in the animal health sector. So as all of you might be aware, that INFAH is the apex body of animal health industry in India. We have 51 members who contribute almost 85 to 90% to the animal health business turnover in the country. We are in the 10th year of our operation, and in this last 10 years, we have been closely associated with the regulators, the various stakeholders, universities, research institutions, and professional bodies like IAVR. In fact, with IAVR, this is our third stint to be talking about AMR or One Health. And it was an easy topic for us to be discussing because we have been in the past brought in some recommendations with respect to AMR during their annual conventions. From INFAH, we would like to state that INFAH is committed to provide the stewardship and the leadership in bringing awareness about judicious and prudent use of antibiotics within the industry and across the stakeholders, right up to the farmer level. We have taken a number of measures in this direction. We recognize as an industry, while antimicrobial use is an important topic, at the same time, we feel we have a responsibility towards providing antibiotics for treatment, which is very important for animal welfare, very critical for producing safe food. And so all these responsibilities have to go hand in hand, and this has to go to the last mile up to the farmer's level. The farmer's economy is associated and clubbed with the welfare of the animal. So while we are talking about the AMR and the use of antibiotics, we have to have an integrated and comprehensive approach. And on behalf of INFAH, I would like to state that we are committed to provide stewardship. We are ready to provide, committed to go as per the WHO program of AMR mitigation. And we are also there to support any initiatives which is driven by science. So it's a great privilege that we have an eminent and a very august panel today of speakers as well as panelists for the panel discussion. And we have more than 250 delegates across the spectrum who have joined today's webinar. So we look forward to wonderful deliberations and discussions. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Verma. Dr. Verma, you can unmute yourself, please, and start again.
Now I request the first learned speaker, Dr. Kamini Walia from the ICMR, to present her views on the initiatives of the ICMR in containment of the AMR in India. Thank you, Dr. Kamini Walia, please.
Are you able to see my slides, please? Good morning, everyone.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
You can go to the slide more. Thank you.
So good morning once again. I am extremely thankful to Dr. Verma for giving me this platform to share some of the initiatives which we have taken to address antimicrobial resistance challenge in the country. As all of you know, antimicrobial resistance is now recognized as a major public health challenge. And during this COVID time also, there has been a lot of focus on indiscriminate use of antimicrobials in COVID patients. And globally, there is a concern that this may leave a trail of AMR and drug-resistant pathogens, which may be difficult to handle in years to come. Now, bacterial infections are important public health threat, and untreated bacterial infections because of drug resistance claim something like 700,000 lives per year worldwide. In 2014, there was a report by noted economist Jim O'Neill, who projected that by 2050, this number may grow up to 10 million, making the global economy lose almost $100 trillion because of loss of productivity. US experiences 2.8 million drug-resistant infections every year and 35,000 deaths. Although not much data is available on the burden of antimicrobial resistance in low-middle income countries, but low-middle income countries are the hotspots for drug-resistant infection. Now, if we look at the drivers of antimicrobial resistance, although what we notice is what is coming from our clinics and the human data, but most of you would know that antimicrobials are used across all the sectors. There is discharge from the environment in the form of effluents, which influences the environmental burden of drug resistance. Then there is an antibiotic use in the livestock, in agriculture, that all percolates down and contributes as a major driver for development of drug resistance. Poor sanitation and hygiene, which is prevalent in the low middle income country settings, including India. This leads to health system structure problems, and to compensate for poor hygiene practices and poor infection control all across the landscape, we use a lot of antimicrobials, whether it is in the community or in the hospital or in the livestock sector, to prevent infections. And that all these factors are actually contributing to development of drug-resistant bugs, which we see manifesting as drug-resistant infections in the patients having difficulty in treating the same. Now, antimicrobial resistance has compromised the advances that we made as a country or globally in the control of infectious diseases. TB is a very prominent example of that. This is contributed by unregulated and inappropriate use of antibiotics. Rising incomes is seen as an important economic factor which is contributing to this problem. Then the over-the-counter availability of antibiotics, the generics, the behavior of self-medication, use in livestock sector. There's limited diagnostic ability and availability of healthcare personnel to effectively treat infectious diseases in the low middle income country settings, and all these factors contribute to development of drug resistance. We are also seeing very high burden of very drug resistant pathogens as hospital acquired infections which patients experience. Even some of the processes like cesarean section, the knee replacement surgeries have become complicated because of drug resistant pathogens. So these MDR pathogens, they lurk as invisible threats in our hospitals. They claim invisible victims. The reason I call them invisible is that no health system is actually recording how many lives are lost because of drug resistant infections in our country. Now, India is considered the epicenter of antimicrobial resistance. We are seeing high levels of carbapenem and colistin resistance, which I will discuss in my subsequent slides. The hospital infections are constituting a large proportion of drug-resistant infections in our country. They are mainly caused by Staph aureus, E. coli, Klebsiella pneumoniae, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and Acinetobacter baumannii. The community infections are also showing development of resistance to some of the higher generation antibiotics like ceftriaxone, and examples are Shigella, Salmonella typhi, including the non-typhoidal Salmonella. Now, these are the key areas of focus of ICMR-AMR initiative. We think generating reliable evidence is very important to devise focused interventions. Then there is a emphasis on improving the diagnosis through diagnostic stewardship, improving the responsible antibiotic prescribing through antibiotic stewardship, reducing the incidence of hospital-acquired infections in hospitals through infection prevention control program. We continue to fund the basic and the clinical research so as to understand mechanisms of resistance, the transmission dynamics. The overall aim is to move towards the One Health aspect of antimicrobial resistance. Now, this is the ICMR-AMR initiative. We have the surveillance initiative, which was started in 2013. There are 30 hospitals across the country which monitor the yearly trends and the patterns. The annual report is published on the ICMR website every year. Then we are working with the same set of hospitals to reduce hospital-acquired infections and build capacities for infection prevention and control, which includes training the human resource personnel, creating a team of people who address the infection control practices in a hospital. The third aspect, which was started in 2018, is making a structure and process of antimicrobial stewardship in these hospitals, creating antibiograms, monitoring the antimicrobial consumption, as well as implement the other antimicrobial stewardship strategies with an overarching aim to reduce empirical use of antibiotics and at the same time improve the prescription of specificity of prescription of antimicrobials. Now, this is the AMR surveillance network. We are doing this surveillance in 30 hospitals, which include both private and the public sector hospitals. We are focusing at 6 pathogens: Enterobacteriaceae, gram-negative non-fermenters, enteric fever organisms, diarrhea-genic organisms, MRSA and Enterococcus, as well as fungal pathogens. Now, the AMR trends in India, which we have seen in last few years, is that for Salmonella typhi, the MDR typhoid was very prominent in the 90s, and it continued to remain so. However, as the use of ampicillin, chloramphenicol, and cotramoxazole reduced, we are now seeing that MDR typhoid is almost wiped out. However, we are seeing high resistance to fluoroquinolones in S. typhi. The susceptibility to carbapenems, which is one of the drugs which is used to treat all the ESBL resistant infections, is almost decreasing by 5 to 10% every year. 30 to 40% E. coli and Klebsiella pneumoniae are resistant to carbapenem, and 70% Acinetobacter baumannii are resistant to carbapenem. Colistin resistance is also increasing. In some cases, almost 30% of Acinetobacter baumannii have been found to be resistant to colistin. MRSA proportion is around 40%. There are increasing MICs to tigecycline and linezolid as well. So overall, it paints quite a grim picture as to where we are heading as a country as far as the burden of antimicrobial resistant pathogens is concerned. Most of the infections in our country are caused by gram-negative bacteria. And gram-negative bacteria have a propensity of acquiring drug resistance genes through mobile genetic elements. So there is a need for constant monitoring and constant understanding and ability to forecast as to what may happen 5 years from now, so that we are able to gear up our treatment practices. Now, reducing drug-resistant infections in the human sector is going to require a very strict and a balanced approach, which includes infection prevention, antimicrobial stewardship, and diagnostic stewardship, as I already mentioned. So we are now taking steps to bring that about. At ICMR, we have a task force on AMR diagnostics. Under this task force, we are looking at the market-ready products which have been developed by different innovators under different funding agencies, like BIRAC funds a lot of innovation in diagnostics. However, none of the diagnostics has been taken up by the healthcare system till now. So there is a gap in developing a diagnostic and whether it makes it to a healthcare system. So ICMR, through a systematic approach, is trying to bridge that gap. We are trying to validate diagnostics, which are rapid diagnostics meant for diagnosis and detection of drug-resistant pathogens, as to what level of validation is required so that program feels confident enough taking up these diagnostics. The other very important aspect of diagnostics is that even the diagnostics which are available in the market are not being utilized properly to reduce antimicrobial prescription. So this is another project which we are undertaking to see how effective are the commercially available diagnostics and diagnostic algorithms in reducing antimicrobial prescriptions. We have recently launched a course, online course with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. This is an 8-week-long course, which for which the link is available on the ICMR website. And anyone who is interested in understanding the importance of rapid diagnostics in AMR response can take it up. Under the Global Health Security Agenda, we are working with CBC and All India Institute of Medical Sciences to create a trained workforce in the infection prevention and control in the ICMR hospitals. Now, we haven't really seen a new drug in last few years, and this is a concern. And a lot of big pharma companies have essentially steered clear of new drug development. New drug development needs to follow a path and a process so that it is evidence-based, and that's the gap that the ICMR surveillance system fills up. But one thing which is very important is that there should be a good antimicrobial stewardship so that companies are encouraged to bring new products to India, because as of now, there is a lot of concern that even if you bring two new drugs to India, they will meet the same fate and will be they will lose their life in another couple of years, because there is a lot of misuse of antibiotics in our country because of the regulations, because of the behavior. So both evidence and the stewardship practices will influence how soon we get new drugs in our country. Antimicrobial stewardship is a very resource-intensive exercise. Every hospital should have their own treatment guideline. There should be an ID physician, and there should be a pharmacist. Unfortunately, most of the hospitals lack on this front. So ICMR is working with the hospitals, the tertiary care hospitals, where the utilization of higher generation antimicrobials is very high, to improve the antimicrobial prescriptions by training of staff. We have released antimicrobial stewardship guidelines as well, and still now we have trained almost 300 staff on antimicrobial stewardship practices. ICMR also launched a campaign on generating AMR awareness in collaboration with Pfizer. I'm sure some of you would have seen this. This appeared on the dailies in January 2019. And there was also radio jingles on the FM program, which was complementing this effort. And in nutshell, this managed to create a lot of awareness among the common people and among the general population about antimicrobial resistance and how they can contribute towards reducing this. In collaboration with the National Council for Science Museum, a Welcome Group recently launched exhibition on superbugs. This was launched in 4 cities: Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Chennai. And this was fully supported by ICMR. At regulatory level, there have been considerable progress made in our country. We have been able to ban many fixed dose combinations, almost 50 fixed dose combinations containing antimicrobials in 2018. Colistin ban was introduced with the support of ICR and DCGI as a potentiator in the animal feed, growth potentiator. Then there have been some guidelines which have been released by FSSAI to introduce the tolerant limits for seafood, shrimp, prawn, and fish. This is under the FSSAI regulation. Then no tolerance limit yet for poultry and meat products have, however, been introduced. Then there is a Central Pollution Control Board who's working on the developing standards for antibiotic residues in effluents, and the direct discharge of antibiotic emissions by pharma sector is now going to be regulated very soon. We work very closely with the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and we developed this guideline for antimicrobial susceptibility testing in the veterinary sector. And we appreciate the support provided by Indian Council of Agriculture and all the other veterinary institutes who participated in this capacity building program. Now, a global antibiotic research and development partnership is working towards developing at least 2 to 3 new drugs in next 4 to 5 years. ICMR has a collaboration with GARDP, and since India has the patient population, India has good labs, there are also good doctors, we may see 1 or 2 clinical trial sites developing in India and undertaking clinical trials with these new drug products. The advantage here will be it will really cut down the time at which new drugs will be introduced to India if the trials have happened in the Indian populations. So future activities, we look forward to supporting more research on in-depth understanding of transmission mechanisms, the clonality at the genotypic level and at the level of whole genome sequencing. Then we are creating a repository of well-characterized strains. We want to strengthen research on antimicrobial stewardship because most of research on antimicrobial stewardship has come from Western countries, which are very different in the way healthcare system is structured there as compared to the challenges we have in India. So we need more research on what kind of interventions should be customized towards the healthcare system and the population's structure that we have in our countries. We want to address the diagnostic gap. This is the missing link in the entire cascade. Unless we have good diagnostics, we will not be able to move the treatment from empirical to targeted. Then we want to fund research to identify new potential drug targets and new drug molecules. One of the major concerns is the overuse of broad spectrum drugs, and we really want to curtail the overuse and encourage physicians to prescribe more narrow spectrum and oral antibiotics. So this is another topic as to how we can reduce that. One health aspect of AMR is huge. It is very important, and it is not touched as of now. Whatever we are seeing or whatever we are doing is only a very minuscule in the magnanimous effort that is required. Understanding transmission dynamics, having interventions which actually help mitigate this is something that is a need of our. And for this, I think we need a lot of multi-sectoral collaboration, the funding, as well as the ability to work together to identify the right questions and provide the right answers. Thank you.
Dr. Verma, you are on mute. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Kamini Walia, for your excellent presentation, including several aspects of the AMR and the One Health. And recently, the TV Alliance stakeholder meeting, I was invited 2 days ago. They made a very good statement that we do have a TV regime of 6 to 9 months to be reduced to 3 months now to 7 to 10 days with the drugs plus immunotherapy. I think it is the greatest challenge before us in AMR is to find out the ways and means to combat the multi-drug resistance. So once again, thank you very much. Now I request the other learned speaker, Dr. Jyoti Mishri, the Principal Scientist, Animal Health ICAR Headquarters. She will be talking on the global concern, including the Indian context on the AMR. Dr. Jyoti Mishri, please.
Sir, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible now.
Should I start?
Perfect.
Can I start, sir?
Please go ahead, Dr. Misri.
Yes, go ahead.
Very pleasant good morning to everyone. I thank the organizers, Dr. Rishinder Verma, Dr. Vijay Ting, and the industry personals for giving me this platform to discuss very important and global menace of antimicrobial resistance. Uh, my earlier speaker has done justice to the initiatives which ICMR has taken. Now, I would emphasize the global response to antimicrobial resistance and what are the national plans and what ICR in short has done. Because our network program is new and we have taken leads and in this sector, as we have visualized the importance of this menace. So the problem of drug residues is very serious and it has impact on the consumer's health and environment also. So this has become a global challenge. Uh, the discovery and introduction of the antimicrobial agents in clinical medicine was one of the greatest medical trumps of the 20th century that revolutionized the treatment of the bacterial infection. However, antibiotic resistance was very well predicted and perceived by the discoverer of the penicillin, and his fear was realized much later by WHO in 2014. Now, why this problem got momentum? At WHO at Geneva published first global report on antibiotic resistance from 114 countries, including India. And in India also, we have reported new Delhi metallobentalactomes and bug, and then in 2011 at Mohali also. In global response, what has been done is the Prime Minister the then UK Prime Minister, this conducted review on antimicrobial resistance, and this responsibility was given to Jim O'Neill. Dr. Kamni also mentioned that the project conducted fewer examination and a detailed prescription of reform was suggested. In United States also established a permanent body of the experts, and they could also recommend advisory on antibiotic resistance bacteria. And similarly, WHO came with a global action plan to combat antimicrobial resistance. and FAO 2015 endorsed the WHO Global Action Plan. Then OIE endorsed WHO GAP, and similarly G7 and G20 group of nations accepted this, and this was an international priority, and technical and financial support was offered. So I have been a member of some of these committees also in formulation of the National Action Plan. And the Prime Minister also discussed in the Mann Ki Baat in July 2016 regarding the importance of the responsible use of the antimicrobials. Then 2016, World Health Assembly, the governing body of the WHO, agreed to support the action plan. And similarly, United Nations National General Assembly in September 2016 brought together all the global community and declared AMR a global problem. AMR is also prioritized under the Global Health Security Agenda, and here India is a contributing country to this. Then India 2017 came with the National Action Plan with multi-sectoral One Health approach. Then Delhi Declaration came with 8 group of ministers, and Government of India submitted to the National Action Plan to FAO and WHO. And on 3rd January 2020, Delhi launched the State Action Plan to combat AMR, focusing on One Health. So I have been a member of these committees also, and then as per the report of the Jim O'Neill report, so he suggested after the study carried out by him that it is not only a health problem, but this is an economic problem, developmental issue, and also she specified that it is reported to cause about 7 lakh deaths annually, and we have seen that 28 million people projected to fall into poverty because of the antimicrobial resistance, and in the up to $1 trillion US global increase in the healthcare costs. Similarly, it also leads to a decline in the global exports because of the residues and other. There is greater implications on the trade. So industry partners are here. So we need to be very careful regarding the evaluation of and the passing of the information regarding the drug residues. Then AMR has a greater impact on the patient outcome and the economic impact. In the European Union study, I have 2.5 million extra hospital days. It was reported in 2007, and it is estimated that 25,000 deaths per year, and overall costs is about 1.5 billion euros per year. This is as per the report of the EU 2016. Then Thailand has reported about 40,000 AMR infected patients per year, and similarly 30,000 deaths from blood infections. US has also reported about 2.5 lakh illnesses and 23,000 deaths. This is as per the WHO study carried out in 2011. Then AMR surveillance networks, which are operational at the large regional and global level. So because surveillance is the cornerstone to assess any spread of disease and what is the status of the different pathogens in different areas, so that we get a first-hand review information about the status of the disease in the different geographical regions. So it also gives us an idea regarding the implementation of the mitigation strategies for assessing or for controlling these infections. Then global surveillance systems are there for HIV, influenza, malaria, and tuberculosis, have been for many years there. But larger regional AMR surveillance networks, which are at present working, are European Antimicrobial Resistance Surveillance System, then WHO's Central Asian and Eastern European Surveillance System. Latin America has a surveillance system, RELIVARA. Then WHO launched the Global Antimicrobial Resistance System GLASS to support the second objective of the Global Action Plan AMR initiative to strengthen the this program. Then there are few ongoing surveillance network programs on the antimicrobial usage in the food animals. It is of the veterinary antimicrobial resistance and sales surveillance, which is of UK. Then Japanese veterinary antimicrobial resistance monitoring system. Then we have Danish integrated antimicrobial system resistance monitoring and research program. Then Swedish antimicrobial resistance program and national antimicrobial resistance system. Then this GLASS is a global antimicrobial resistance surveillance system. This is a system to collect officially national data on AMR in the 8 selected bacterial pathogens. This GLASS, it aims to provide a standardized approach to the collection, analysis, sharing of the antimicrobial data by the countries, and seeks to document the status of existing or newly developed national antimicrobial surveillance system. So in alignment with the work of the Global Action Plan, GLASS also promotes integration with the other cellular systems. So we are going to, as Dr. Kamini also suggested, that we are going with the integrated surveillance system in the public and environment also. Then what GLASS does, it collects the AMR data from the 8 priority human bacterial pathogens: Acinetobacter, E. coli, Klebsiella pneumoniae, then and gonorrhea, Salmonella, Shigella, Staph aureus, and Streptococcus. So it has suggested, GLASS has suggested 2 core components for each countries for effective surveillance is in all regions. Then they should have a suggested national coordination center with a designated national focal point and the national reference laboratory to support the national AMR surveillance. So in India, we have a focal point as the NCDC, and we are submitting the data to the GLASS through this coordinating unit. By the end of the second data call on December 18, even 71 countries and 6 have been reporting data, and 6 are in progress for enrollment in the GLASS. And now we'll be having another enrollment by the end of the 2020. GLASS is also promoting pilot projects on the integrated surveillance system on AMR. Then antimicrobial usage in food animals, and what is the global trends and what is the global response to the usage of the antimicrobials. So in 2010, it was projected that 63,151 tons are being in usage, but it is projected to rise in 2030. It is supposed to rise to 2,235,000,000 tons. This is the as per the study carried out by the as reported in the by yes carried out, and this, oh sorry, I have gone back. In the Southeast Asian region, so we have observed that there is lot of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis and extensively drug resistant TB. It has been reported. Then 60% resistance in pentavalent antimony and 25% in pentamidine. Then multi-drug resistant Salmonella typhi is prevalent all over the region. Then we have seen other hospital-associated Staph aureus infections, which are methicillin resistance, Acinetobacter baumannii, and Pseudomonas klebsiella. They cause huge mortality and morbidity also. In malaria also, we have seen lot of resistance to the parasite. Then we have, I have already discussed this NDM1, which stands for New Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, and this was a Swedish national who fell ill, and it was then reported that unsuccessfully treated in the New Delhi hospital. And similarly, it was a carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella pneumonia strain, and similarly in 16-year-old girl, she died due to Klebsiella pneumonia in hospital at Mohali. So this is a study carried out in the river waters of Indian river waters, and this is by the study in the Kaveri. See the level, how much it is resistant. We are observing this much of gram-negative E. coli bacteria. In Yamuna, this is carried out by Azam 216, and see ampicillin, ciprofloxacin, imipenem, and similarly from the rivers, from other rivers. These are extended spectrum cephalosporins. In Ganga and Yamuna, we have been able to see by the different authors. So, what is the current scenario in AMR in India, and what are the major stakeholders and antimicrobial resistance? Government of India, state governments, FSSAI, ICMR, ICR, CBSSO, then animal healthcare systems, animal industries, pharmaceutical industries, professional association, and international development partners. Then this is a national commitment in response to the antimicrobial resistance. This is in after Jaipur Declaration 2011, then Chennai Declaration, then Delhi Declaration in 2017. Uh, Then this is a national action plan which has come out, and India is also come out in 2017 with the national action plan. Then this is an AMR networks which are in India, Indian Network for Surveillance of Antimicrobial Resistance, and Dr. Conley has said about ICMR coordinated network. Then there is NCDC coordinated network. Then there is Mahasar. Then Indian Network for Fishery and Animal Antimicrobial Resistance for Food Animals and Aquaculture. This is being coordinated by ICR with support from FAO. Then this is the official NCDC coordinated network, and we are reporting the data through them to GLAS. Then this Dr. Kamni has highlighted about the AMR surveillance, and this was an initiative which was conceptualized in 2017, and we have formally launched this program, as I have said in other forums also, and we are moving with in accordance with the National Action Plan, and I'm coordinating this program at ICR level, and this is this, we are aimed to develop scientifically validated data regarding antimicrobial resistance and antimicrobial usage in agriculture through constant surveillance and monitoring systems, then diagnostics to detect multi-drug resistance in food animals as well as aquaculture. Then we are also working on alternative therapeutics, be it vaccines, be it antimicrobial peptides, be it bacteriophages, fora. We are also working on the herbal products and also on the economic analysis regarding the impact of the drug resistance on the disease status, on the consumer's health, on the economic status of the poor farmers. And we are also working to identify the researchable issues which could address the knowledge gaps and develop effective pragmatic mitigation strategies to maximize the effectiveness of the antibiotics, because we cannot as such demolish the antibiotics, antimicrobials. We have to use them. We have to use them judiciously and for therapeutics, and we can avoid them as prophylactics. Then this our program is as per 6 strategic action plans to control and prevent the antimicrobial resistance. So first is surveillance of AMR antibiotic usage. We have developed a sampling plan, and we are also having SOPs developed for the surveillance and for carrying out the sample studies in the different regions. And we are also carrying out programs for the increased awareness through knowledge, through carrying out short trainings, pamphlets, brochures. And we are also having a network for appropriate usage of the effective antibiotics. And simultaneously, we are also working on another network on monitoring of the residues and environmental pollutants, where we are seeing the usage of the antimicrobials or antibiotics in the animal system, especially in the livestock and the poultry sector. And how much is this? Because in that case, we require a broader collaboration and interaction with the other industry people also, and different stakeholders also. And then, yes, policy and regulations are very important for assessing the problems of antimicrobial resistance. Then this includes the strategic priorities of improved awareness and understanding of AMR. Many of our institutes, they are having a 1 week this awareness programs on antibiotics, and we are having different seminars and quizzes, essay competitions. ICR is carrying out. Then this is the strengthening of the knowledge and evidence through surveillance. So surveillance is depends upon many factors, including the point of care diagnostics. So we need to strengthen the diagnostics also, so that we are able to carry out the surveillance in an effective way. Then reduce the incidence of infection through effective infection prevention and control by adopting the biosecurity and biosafety measures. Then yes, we have to through biocontainment and biosafety measures, we have to optimize the use of the antimicrobial agents in the animals and food. Then definitely we need to work further in research and innovation and strengthen the leadership in the antimicrobial resistance. Then there are some of the key initiatives which have been taken by India to contain AMR before and after adoption of the National Action Plan. And this is, I have already described about the Jaipur Declaration on Antimicrobial Resistance in 2011, where the health ministers, along with the members of the state of WHO, they adopted the Jaipur Declaration. And similarly, National Program on Containment of Antimicrobial Resistance was launched under the 12th 5-year plan, which included the Schedule H1 drugs, then an international conference on antimicrobial resistance, combating antimicrobial resistance, a public health challenge and priority, was jointly organized by Government of India and WHO in February 2016, and Medicines with the Red Line media campaign was launched. Then I have said about the National Action Plan in 2017. To bring the implementation of the National Action Plan, a meeting titled National Consultation to Operational Action Plan for AMR Containment was jointly organized by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, National Center for NCDC and WHO. So there were different stakeholders. I was also part of this meeting. Then strengthening AMR surveillance network, GLASS. So the surveillance system, this is very important. Then Food Safety and Standards Authority of India released antibiotic residue limits in food from animal origin. Then Indian network of INFAH has been established with Food and Agriculture Organizations assistance. Then ICMR launched Antibiotics Stewardship Initiative. Dr. Kamini has also already discussed about it. Then draft guidelines for antibiotic residues in pharmaceutical, industrial effluent and common effluent treatment plants were developed by the Central Pollution Control Board. And Kerala became the first state to adopt the National Action Plan in October 2018. So this is our network, ICR network. It has this is functional now, and we are working with around 13 ICR institutes and 3 state agriculture universities. Now in this EFC we plan to strengthen this INFAR program with more institutions. Now we'll be adding about 7 we have added, and EFC is under submission because of the COVID, it got delayed, and we are hoping to get 20 ICR institute and another 5 state agriculture universities. Then this was launched in IVRI at Izzatnagar, and we have also provided with help from FAO training on the ABST and WHO net software also. And as already said, we have finalized the SOP and then as well as the technical programs of the various collaborating units also. So initially our focus will be on 2 pathogens in the animal sector, Staph aureus and cons, and as well as the E. coli. And in the fishery sector, we're having 4 pathogens, including the Staph aureus and E. coli, as well as we are working on Aeromonas and Vibrio cholerae also. Then we're having random isolation from the cattle milk samples, environmental feed, and water samples also, and data generated will be submitted later on after evaluation to class, and initial leads have come up. But however, we are carrying on further surveillance, and for the last 4 quarters, we have generated the data, and we are having the harmonization of the data also. Then ICR would be uh, advising on um, animal health, then livestock production systems, then agriculture and plant health, because in agriculture system also a lot of antimicrobials are used. Even there are some antimicrobials which have been used in the agriculture sector are also being used in the public health system also. So we'll be assessing feed and food safety, then public health, and how industries would be benefited, and we'll be working on this sector. Then, however, there are some challenges which needs to be addressed, because we don't have any database of the various antimicrobial pathogen resistance pathogens, so that we formulate the drug policy or any guidelines. So we need to strengthen the surveillance data, but because we need to be sure about the sampling or sampling system also, because we should see that whether we are doing and surveillance with any preconceived notion or as easy as accessibility. So all those factors regarding the collection of the surveillance data, collection of the samples is very important, is very pertinent to generation of the data for the antimicrobial resistant pathogens. Then yes, standard operating guidelines are very important. We have generated for some of the pathogens. Yes, we need to move for the other pathogens also. And then improvement in antibiotic prescription practices is very important and very pertinent for addressing this issue. Then we need to have to see how we could prevent the over-the-counter sale of antibiotics. Then we need to address the issues of poor sanitation, endemic infections, and malnutrition, particularly in the animal sector. We need to address the problems, various bacterial and viral pathogenic problems also, so that our animals don't get immunosuppressed and they are susceptible to other infections also. Then we challenge is limited public awareness and government commitment and lack of committed research funding to the AMR. Now ICR is going on with EFC, and we plan to have dedicated funding for this program. Unavailability of standard therapeutic guidelines to the registered veterinarians is also a challenge. Then yes, reliable diagnostic tests is the need of the then supply of new antimicrobial agent. So how we can address or how we can share responsibility for a secure future is we need to have a working collaboration and interconnectivity between the various sectors, because AMR is a multi-sectoral problem. It requires a multi-sectoral approach. So we need to work at government level, at the level of the policymakers and scientists. They need to verify the occurrence of the resistance related to disease and design research. Accordingly, we can fill these voids and expand the efforts to develop alternatives to antimicrobial agents. Like we need to be very pertinent about the development of the vaccines, antimicrobial peptide usage for treating the infections, as well as bacteriophage research. So research through scientific community needs to be carried out, and we need to develop devices for rapid, reliable diagnosis, and we need to strengthen the efforts in the through industry sector also to implement current advancement of strategies at ground level. And veterinarians, they need to be given the training regarding the usage of the antimicrobial at the state animal husbandry units. And similarly, we need to educate the farmers also, so that they should have the protection practices, hygiene, and standard disinfection to reduce the cleanable requirement of the antimicrobial. So there is a problem which doesn't go with one sector, which doesn't go with one discipline. It requires transdisciplinary approach, and we all need to work together to address this global menace of the antimicrobial resistance, which is taking a front stage in the present scenario. So there are future areas where we need to work, because we need to see the transmission dynamics of the antimicrobial resistance bacteria and resistance genes. We have seen in our studies also, like abiquinum is never being prescribed in the animals, but we are having abiquinum resistance in the piggery, or we have seen such cases also where we could report NDM1 from the one-day born calf. So these are issues where we need to, whether this is an indirect exposure or whether it is an transfer of these resistant genes from the animal system to human, or from the water, from the environment. So requires lot of studies on transmission dynamics. Then source tracking of antimicrobial resistance bacteria. So what is the, whether it comes from where we are observing an integrated farming system. We need to see whether where are we are having pig also, poultry also, then agriculture system also. So whether it comes from, say, aquaculture, whether it comes from environment. So we need to work on these areas also. Then natural antimicrobials for dairy, poultry, and also for aquaculture and seafood safety system. Then aquaculture, we are facing more problems because we are putting in the water, whether and what could be the withdrawal period for such, whether we need to change the whole of the pond water, or what is the, so all these factors, there are many factors and gaps we need to address. Then standardization of the break points is also very important, because we don't have any specific set guidelines for all the antimicrobials being used. Then role of environment, wildlife, and changes in the climatic conditions on disease emergence. So this is the areas where we can work together. And then what could be a way forward? Then, because this is the global nature of antimicrobial resistance, requires calls for a global response. As I have said, this is a multifactorial problem, requires a multisectoral response, and then raising the profile and priority of antimicrobial resistance is very important through policy, through making people at the higher level aware about this problem, because it is not one person's role. We need the collective response in establishment and maintenance of global and national AMR surveillance data is very important. Specification and coordination of international national standards in laboratory susceptibility testing. Standardization of research methods, coordinating research activities, and disseminating information. AMR containment requires close collaboration between human, veterinary, fisheries, health, and environmental, including wildlife. So we have some leads from our NDRI also, where we have come up with AST of E. coli and Staph aureus in cow and buffalo milk, and the AST assay for ESBL and carbapenem detection in E. coli. But however, before publishing or before getting this data, we need to be doubly sure, so that our industry partners are well taken care of. So, any questions? Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Dr. Verma, you need to unmute.
Excellent and exhaustive presentation, and so many interventions and declarations and efforts are made, and in future let us see that they converge rather than diverge. And one of the important point which you mentioned, which I also thought in my mind, is the guidelines for the field veterinarians on AMR may be developed by INFAH Webinar scientific bodies, ICAR, because the awareness should reach to the grassroots level, like the mask. Either the fear or the legislation are the two components we can make people aware. कोविड से मरने की वजह से मास्क लगा रहे हैं सब. Next,
I think
speaker, I would like to invite
Dr. Verma.
Yadav. Yeah.
Dr. Verma. Dr. Kamini Walia has another appointment, and she wanted to leave. Just before she leaves, there was one question which wanted to be addressed.
Please.
And Dr. Walia, you have talked about your collaboration for, I think, with an organization for development of new drugs. And so I think we can learn from your experience because that was a very positive step that industry should be encouraged to bring in new drugs. They should not be fearing that some legislation or some regulatory constraint would come, which will deprive them of the commercial interest of the product. And you have been working on this collaborative effort. So what has been your experience in this direction?
So we need new drugs in India. There is no doubt about it. The concern is not regulatory. The regulatory concerns have been more or less addressed by CGI. And CGI is very open to even waiving of some of the requirements for bringing new drugs to the market. But concern is with the industry. As I mentioned in my talk, because there is over-counter availability of antimicrobials, because we don't have very stringent guidelines to implement one schedule, which refrains the chemist from selling the drug with a prescription. Since we have these loopholes and gaps, there is concern bringing drugs to the Indian market will kind of phase up the drug.
Your voice is cracking a bit. Dr. Walia?
The program decided to have the drug with the program itself and not put it out in the open market. Because the concerns are that in the open market, there will
I think we're not able to hear you. We lost you.
Where did you lose me? Can I hear me now?
Open market.
Okay. So did I start the TB story already?
No. We could not hear you properly.
So just, 2 points that there is a concern for industry itself for bringing new drugs to India. The second point is that I'll stop the video. So the second point is that
we lost you again. Dr. Walia? I think there is some issue with the audio, but what we could hear from the small comments is that there are no major concerns from regulators. There is no major concern from DCGI. It's more to do with the industry has to come forward with their projects and their experiences and they should be investing into the new products and new projects. I think that's where we have left it. We would like to thank Dr. Kamini Walia for a wonderful presentation and as well as Dr. Jyoti Mistry, but we would request Dr. Mistry to be staying back with us because there will be questions at the end of the session. And we move on to Dr. Verma. We go back to you.
Thank you. Now I invite the third learned speaker, Dr. Ajit Singh Yadav, who is heading the post-harvest technology poultry at the Central Avian Research Institute. We'll be talking on assessment of AMR in poultry pathogens and potential alternatives. Dr. Yadav, please.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning to all of you again. First of all, I just want to convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Rishendra Verma for sharing the platform on a very important topic. No doubt, in the month of September, most of the experts who are sitting here, they also shared some of their views in a meeting which was jointly organized by CRI as well as by FAO New Delhi. No doubt, because this sector, especially the poultry sector, is being considered that it is imparting the AMR to a great extent. So we should discuss these issues in time and again so that we can find some of the, what you can say, ways and means to reduce the AMR, especially with pertinent to the poultry pathogens. So on this aspect, we will be talking. And in this short presentation, the main features will be that what is the production scenario of the poultry so that we can address the issues accordingly. What are the challenges before the poultry sector, and what is the profile of the antibiotic used in the poultry sector? How we can go for the AMR assessment, and what are the potential alternative, and some of the work which we have carried out and finished recently at CRI that will be sharing with you. And lastly, what are the areas of concern that will be in the conclusions. So to start with the production profile, everybody knows that this sector is a very fast growing sector, and we have seen that India is advancing very fastly in this sector. With just 5 eggs per year availability was 1951. Now it has increased to 74 eggs per year. No doubt we are far below the world average of 200 eggs per year. And in the similarly in the meat availability, we are still lagging behind. That is 2.8 kg, and it is considered to be reached by 3.1 kg in this year. So the net conclusion that we are producing 95.2 billion eggs, and it is likely to increase by 106 billion this year. But we are still to go a long way. And in this long way, what are the challenges which we will face? No doubt this will be discussed in the scenario of antibiotic reduction in the poultry sector. So what we were talking that, okay, this sector is growing very fast, has enormous potentials, and it is one of the sector which India can have a good growth in the future also. No doubt dairy milk processing and the fishery sector, they are also potential, but 6 to 7% growth is not a less growth when the agriculture, especially the crop sector, is not growing at so fast. But this sector has many challenges, and these challenges we have to counter in keeping in view the AMR issue also. So what are the challenges? Challenges are the diseases, especially emerging and re-emerging, and these pose a lot of problem to the entrepreneurs, to the farmers, to the commercial entrepreneurs, that how to control them and what are these strategies for using antibiotic to control the disease. We will be discussing that what the factor associated with the vaccine failure, especially the viral disease. We have witnessed in the past that viral disease, they are also imparting lot many production losses, and in that factor also the antibiotics, they are also being used. So in that factor we have to think whether we should go complete what you can say alternatives, or we have to slowly remove the antibiotics even in the viral diseases and pre-harvest losses, which the farmer considers that it is the factor that if he cannot control the losses before the product is available for the market, then it is not going to be economical. So these factors to be seen when we will talk the use of antibiotics in poultry. No doubt we will be just emphasizing that AMR is a burning issue, and we have to address in this sector also, where lot many apprehensions are being asked that use of antibiotic in poultry is greatly responsible for increase in AMR. No doubt we don't have the data, we will be tracking on that aspect also. So the people or the farmers or the entrepreneurs, they have the fear that the poultry may lead to great losses because of the disease outbreak, and that is why the antibiotics, they are being used to prevent some of the important diseases. There is pressure to the production. The production, that means we have to produce to a very, very high tune in a very, very short span of time. That is why they consider that, okay, let's go for the high production, and the antibiotic in our country, they are very, what you can say, at low cost, and they are very easily available. So that is why people, they consider that, okay, if there is any disease, without any reason also, some of the antibiotic they are being in use. If you can talk the usage of antibiotic in poultry production, though basically it is being used, these are being used for three purposes, whether feed additives, increase production and profitability, and prophylactic. What is the current scenario in our country? We should discuss it. The discussion is that the environment, the feed and the water quality, presently we cannot say that it meets to the high standards. And in the event, the poultry production, especially in the early first or second week of the production, the early chick mortality, it accounts to very high. And that is why in the country where we have to devise certain strategy for feed, water quality, and even for the environment. Till then, the prophylactic antibiotic are to be given not only just by checking infection, but to a great extent the other factors associated with the feed and water quality, so that we can prevent the early chick mortality. That is why they are being advocated as a prophylactic measures. And thirdly, that is the therapeutic that is essential, especially with the these bacterial diseases and in some of the cases the viral diseases also. And if we can consider both-sided, we cannot consider one-sided of what you consider antibiotic, they are totally what you can say not required for the poultry production. We should understand this in what you can say perspective, that they started especially used in near about 1950s. And the purpose for the using antibiotic in poultry production is to reduce the pre-harvest doses, maintain good health, welfare of the birds, then to reduce this pathogen load in the gut, and also to reduce the intestinal tissue damage which the pathogens they use to cause. They're also being advocated to prevent the subclinical infections, and even they are considered to be using to reduce the thickening of the intestines that may lead to more nutrient absorption. And also they can be used for preventing the microbial adherence and invasion to the gut. And they are also considered to be leading to the production of toxic amines. Thus, they are considered to be reduction in the stress to the birds, or you can call it as a welfare issue. And they are also considered to lead to the energy sparing effect because of the energy being utilized for the immune response, for the control of the pathogens, that is being what you can say reduced by using antibiotic. So in nutshell, they are imparting some of the issues or the benefits to the birds. No doubt we have to consider this in perspective of the AMR. And if you can consider that 1940, it was considered that they are being used as growth responses, and the first antibiotic used was streptomycin in poultry feed. And thereafter, it revolutionized the intensive poultry production system throughout the world. And the basic aspect of using antibiotic in the poultry was for the better growth and to reduce FCR. The reason being that poultry needs to be produced with the economical aspect so that we can have the better returns. So in that consider, no doubt, if you can consider the mechanism of action of the antibiotics in the poultry sector is concerned, that we don't have the clear-cut aspect still what is the exact action, but there are these possible actions may be the change in the microbial population, and the microbial population, those type of microbial population that is may lead to reduced capability of evoking an inflammatory response, and also some of the bacteria, they may lead to the altered metabolic activity, and ultimately they lead to more absorption of the nutrients. So in that cell, that they have some beneficiary effect, and in that aspect we have to think. If we can consider in general poultry as a growth promoter antibiotics, so they are the chances that there are lead to development of the antibiotic resistance. That means they are being used at low levels. They are considered that they may be given for a longer duration for prevention of the infections, and they are generally administered in feed. But as far as the therapeutic concern and the prophylactic aspect is concerned, they are given much higher dose, short duration, and generally administered in water. So this aspect of prophylactic and therapeutic, that is going to be a lower resistance development as compared to the AGP, which are given for a longer duration. So we have to focus right now on this aspect of AGP in the feed for a longer duration. If you can consider the worst scenario of antibiotic use in the feed aspect, and many of the countries, these have been banned, especially in the European Union. And as far as our country is concerned, we don't have the exact data on quantum of antibiotic being used in animal sector, including poultry, as well as in the human sector. So this needs to be given much priority so that we can have some idea what is the quantum being used, and we can take the note from that and we can develop some strategy. On this aspect, no doubt we were talking that these are the beneficial aspect of the antibiotic being used in the poultry. But what is the another aspect of these antibiotics, especially in the current context when we are talking AMR, a burning issue? So these antibiotics, especially we are talking that if they are being used in the poultry for growth promotion, they may lead to antibiotic resistance. We have to go for increased regulations so that we can meet certain SPS criteria for our products. And we have witnessed that people, they demand for more antibiotic products which are free from antibiotics because of the reason that they are much more being used in the poultry production. And there is more quest for the alternative to antibiotic because of their some aspect being used in the poultry production. So if we can see in totality that what is the work profile that we have carried out in as far as the AMR assessment in poultry pathogens. Right now, we have reports on E. coli, Campylobacter, Salmonella. Even at our institute also, we have carried out a surveillance program and the assessment of AMR status in E. coli, Salmonella in the samples which were collected from the poultry egg, meat, and the feed sample right in the North Indian regions. And over the years of 4 or 5 years, we collected data and we found that some of the antibiotics which are being in use, especially in the poultry therapeutic, they are also being somewhat increased in the resistance profile. So that is alarming in the sense that we have to think on these aspects. There is 1 or 2 reports on other pathogens, but the major focus is on Salmonella, E. coli, and Campylobacter. And work carried out in India, that is also somewhat suggesting that there is somewhat increase in the resistance profile of the pathogens. But as far as the work is concerned, Dr. Jyoti Misri, she was narrating all the aspect of the ICR initiatives, and what is the important aspect that she was in just narrating that ICR have started an INFAH project on fishery and animal sciences. So that will give some idea of the resistance pattern in the pathogens of poultry also. No doubt in that project, it is both animals and the fisheries, including poultry, is being targeted. So that is a systematic approach. That is a systematic approach in the sense that SOP is almost uniform, and all the results, they are being collected on a uniformity manner. Till now, in our country, we have fragmentary reports. There are some reports from some colleges, some institutes, some area that is not giving the entire picture of our country in a very, very systematic manner. And they are localized also. And another important factor that we have collected data from pathogens, and it was found that most of the reports on AMR, they are based on the phenotypic basis of assessment of AMR, and there are less report on genotypic detection. Unless until we don't have the complete picture of phenotypic as well as genotypic assessment of AMR, we cannot arrive at a conclusion that this is the factor or these are the factor or there is increase in these pathogens because of the prophylactic use or whether it is due to the other uses. And the data is also not uniform. And based on the present data studies which are available, we cannot arise on a clear-cut conclusion. And some of the reports which have been collected from some of the big cities nearby and with some of the agencies, they have collected some sample and they just given indications that, okay, the AMR or the antimicrobial resistance for these pathogens are increasing in poultry sector and they have been collected from these farms on this state. We cannot arrive at a particular conclusion unless until we don't have the data which are very muchly systematically collected and that has been carried out with a systematic approach. So till then, we have to carry out our other studies also. And if we can see the implications of, no doubt, we have to see our production profile of the poultry, but we have to see if there is increase in the resistance. So what are the implications going to for our country? That is that it may lead to increase in the bacterial resistance population and may increase or affect the efficacy of antibiotic chemotherapy. There is chances that it increases the need for more expensive and toxic medications because the antibiotics which are resistant, they are not going to solve the problem. So we have to depend on more expensive or more medications. And some trade related issues, they may be also crop up in the time to come. So we have to think well in advance to tackle this problem. That is very, very important. And I will be talking, no doubt, we have other options also, whether it is bacteriophage, whether antimicrobial peptides, or whether it is other aspect. But I will be consigned just confirm to the some of the aspect which we have currently or we have recently completed. And we have carried out some of the aspect of alternative to the AGP using some of the essential oils, grass chemicals, probiotic, prebiotic, organic acids, and we also used nucleotides in the poultry production. That aspect I will be covering in a very, very short, what you can say, span. And if you can consider some of the aspect of the alternative that should exert the similar effect to AGP, they should be safe for both for poultry, because some of the alternative they are not safe for poultry even and for the human, and ensure proper growth, and they should have the potency to check pathogens, address welfare of the birds, easy availability, and the more important is that easy in applications. On these aspects, if the individuals are being used as antimicrobial, they lack consistency and the results are very widely, they vary. And mode of action even not fully understood. And also the effect is very much limited. So to overcome this, we have carried out in combinations use of many essential oils, grass chemicals, as well as we have used some of the probiotics. So that being cared about their action, storage stability, safety, production performance, sensory of the final product, it is very much important whether your meat or egg, what is the what you can say sensory aspect, or whether the residual aspect, or whether it is sensory or smell or any texture aspect is being addressed by the combination that you have used. And storage stability of the product is also important. And lastly, the cost is also important to be used in the poultry production. So what we have used essential oils, they are considered grass, and there are linalool, thymol, carbochlor, and cinnamaldehyde. They are being used in the poultry, and they impart very good health aspect to the poultry, and they are good antioxidant also. So what we have done in poultry, that being a, what you can say, they are some of the essential oil, they are weak in antimicrobial stability issue, availability issue, and the cost issue. So we have used very, very low concentration of these so that the economic aspect can also be met out. We have used prebiotic because they have to classify certain factors to be used in the poultry. There is survivability, adherence, and the antimicrobial actions, and they also the what is the immunomodulatory effect, and also the safety as well as the stability. For these have to be taken into consideration for use in the poultry. So on these aspects, we have conducted the trial that what is the enhancement in the immune response, what is the increase in the serum immunoglobulins, then enhanced antibiotic titer, gut health, and modulation of microbial population and decreased pathogens that we have addressed in these experiments. And what is the probable actions of associated with this probiotic that is considered that they lead to the this change in the bacterial composition of the gut, competitive, what you can see, inhibition, they lead to carried out, adherence conditions for other pathogens, and the production of some certain antimicrobial factors. And also they lead to secretory IgA production and role of activation of macrophages and increase in the cytokine production. These are some of the aspects. So, however, before deciding any probiotic to be used in poultry production, that needs that what are the type, what is the level, what is the conditions applied in processing, and what is the time at which these are to be incorporated, what is the period for which we have to incorporate in the poultry diet, and type of diet associated and the gut environment, that is very much important. So we have used organic acids also, especially with the feed acting organic acid. The basic idea that they are lead to the stimulate the growth of beneficial bacteria, inhibit harmful bacteria also, and they also create certain conditions for the lactobacillus to grow very fastly as compared to the other conditions. We have used some grass chemicals, that is copper, vitamin C, and they have been found to be very, very essential in the increase in the antimicrobial action of the totality. And copper being a component enzyme system, and it has been used for many factors in the poultry production also, and it has been incorporated in our combinations. But there is limitation of its use in the poultry, especially with the concentration, and singly it has no potent action. Similarly, we have used vitamin C as a component of the combination, and it has been found to be a very, very important, especially with regard to the imparting this immunity to the birds, stress, especially with the what you can say reduction in the birds, and other functions of the immunity. Another aspect that we have carried out with regard to the combinations of thymol, carbachol, vitamin C, and copper sulfate, that there has been found to be a significant reduction in the bacterial population if you use them in vitro conditions. So that is why we evaluated first under in vitro conditions against pathogens, and those which are found very effective, that combination, the red one, TCVC, was found to be very effective for a very long period of time, 20 hours. We have seen that kept the bacterial population at very low, and that combination we use in the poultry production. And we used antibiotic as a control, and essential oils, lactobacillus fermentum, in combination of lactobacillus, essential oil, moss, and feed acidifier. And we found that the combination was very much effective in growth performance, immunity enhancement, and also improved gut health. Lower pathogenic count was observed, and the combination, it encouraged the growth of lactobacillus. That was the most significant factor. And lastly, we used another approach for the use of the alternative nucleotide as alternative. We use two types of approaches in this one. We fed to the birds for a certain period, and then we assess the performance on growth and what you can say other aspect of the immunity. Then we also subjected these to the in vivo injections, and also assessed the post-hatch performance of the birds, and also carried out some of the field trial for a period of 14 days. And it was found to be very much effective in enhancement of the growth of the birds. And on that basis, we can say the nucleotide, they are also an important segment of the alternative of the antibiotic to the AGP, especially in the poultry. So in that, I conclude my just talk in the sense that AMR assessment in poultry pathogens, that is not giving any conclusion right now in our country. We need to go for much more systematic approach, which we will get after certain period of time with the INFAH project that is being in place by ICR as well as FAO collaboration. And After that, we can assess that whether poultry sector is contributing this much of resistance to the pathogens and needs to be interrupted in certain places, whether it is feed or whether it is water or whether other environment, what are their contributing factors. Then we have to go certain more alternative, whether it is essential oil, grass, nucleotides, or other antimicrobials which can be effective, safe, and they are cost effective. That can be used as the growth promoting, and we should discourage totally the AGPs in the feed, and we can find a replacement for these in the future. And with this, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit Singh Yadav, for an excellent presentation, having a balance of the antibiotics and the alternatives, and very innovative information has been embodied in your presentation. So we move to the next learned speaker, Dr. Nitin Bhatia from INFAH, who will be talking on antimicrobial use in animal health and AMR. Dr. Bhatia, please.
Thank you, sir. I think I'm audible and screen is visible. Yeah.
Audible.
We have heard people from ICMR, people from ICR, and then Dr. Yadav from CARI. So a mix of research, human and animal health perspective. What comes out is that we really lack data as far as animal health is concerned. Let me talk a little more on specific to animal healthcare, AMR, and an Indian perspective. We are going to talk about the animal healthcare sector, the sector providing food and the future food, antimicrobials and its uses in animal healthcare, regulatory controls, and what we need to do way forward. We know that animal healthcare is an integral component of agriculture and provides livelihood to 2/3 of the rural population. Livestock is important and is linked for food security. India is the largest animal husbandry sector in the world with the highest number of animals. 20 million people are dependent on livestock, and it provides employment to 8.8% of the human population. I'll not go into data, but it says that we contribute towards GDP. We are 31% contributor towards agriculture, the largest in the world, holding of 11.6% of the animals, the largest in terms of buffalo, and figures for all animals are available here. Yes, milk is one of the highest valued cereal, because usually we talk about cereals, but milk is higher than even wheat and rice put together. So the contribution of milk is the highest in the country in terms of food, and food security is important. This is again the data which talks about where we stand, but I'll just say we are the number 1 milk producer, the number 3 egg producer, and the number 2 aquaculture producer. So considering all this, and considering that India would be a hub for future food, the requirements of animal healthcare, protein is increasing, and India would be substantially adding on to this requirement of the world. Middle class group is growing. As a result, India would be Indian animal healthcare would be an income provider for the entire, and a source of food for the entire world. We know that biomass has increased. We know that people have started consuming more of proteins. The protein consumption of Asia was 7 grams per capita per day, which has increased to 25 in 2013. We don't have the data thereafter, but there are increasing requirements, and the BRIC countries have to satisfy this requirement of increasing animal protein. And India is a major mover for that. We know animal proteins have to contribute, are used because they are good contributors of vitamin A, vitamin B12, riboflavin, calcium, iron, and zinc. We know that the demands for meat is growing up. Consumption also is growing up, and there's an expectation that the world consumption will grow up in terms of animal healthcare products by 30% by 2050. So this all has to come in from the livestock sector. If you look at India, these are the data of US, UK, how much meat we are consuming, milk and egg. So if you look at India, we are much below many of the developed countries worldwide. And protein is going to play an important role even for tomorrow. Now coming to antimicrobial usage and its animal healthcare perspective. This is the latest data which is authenticated. In 2010, it said India is consuming 3% of the world antibiotic as far as animal healthcare is concerned. 3% of the world. Now, if you look at the same data, it says 11.6% of the world population lies in India. So India supports 11.6% of the livestock population, the poultry population, the dairy population, and is consuming 3% of 63,000 tons of the antibiotic which is used in animal healthcare. There was also a projection that by 2030, this will increase by 67%. This says the 66% increase, 2/3 of this increase will be because of increase in population of these animals. So which means that only 1/3 increase would be the other point of. While if you look at a prominent human aspect, humans and pets, even pets, are using 10 times more antibiotics than food animals. You look at any antibiotic, the dose is 5 mg for a animal and the dose is 25 mg for a human. So you can very well look into those facts. Antibiotic usage in human is very high as compared to animal healthcare. And we, as my earlier speakers have talked about it, we lack data on animal healthcare in Indian perspective. Now, again, if you look at human population, we said 3% of the world antibiotic is consumed by 11.6% of the livestock in India. If we look at the human population, 17% of the population is in India, consuming 22% of the antibiotic. I'm not touching on too much depth about it, but a lot of AMR lies with many other systems apart from animal healthcare. We have to do our due, but yes, others are also equally responsible and will have to play an important role. Antimicrobials are valuable, essential for life of human as well as animals. Animals system, livestock farming can become more effective with judicious use of antibiotics for treating infectious diseases. AMR is a relatively lower concept in animal healthcare than in human healthcare. Use of antibiotics in farming community is considered as an added cost. It's an added cost with no economic implication, no economic sense. So no farmer would like to add on antibiotic without a reason. So as I said, antimicrobials are essential for animal healthcare as for human healthcare. Presence of antimicrobial residues is globally agreed and is not questionable. It's only within a few limits it is permissible. So being a natural product, presence of antimicrobial, again I'll say, is possible below the MRL levels. Antimicrobial resistance is broadly species specific and interspecies correlation does not exist. My earlier speaker has talked about phenotypic and genotypic. Another aspect is it is species specific majorly. So we can't say that whatever we have in human healthcare is coming from animal healthcare, pakka. But yes, there is a correlation. We have to work our due. Now we have had the entire ministries working on that. We had the amendments in the last few years on withdrawal periods. We have Schedule H and H1 already implemented for prescription drugs, which is already there in process by government. Yes, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Livestock has issued various advisories, and these advisories have been helping us in reducing the usage as growth promoters, and they have really worked well. My earlier speakers have talked about what has happened from 2011. We have talked about the Jaipur, the Delhi, the states coming forward and having their own plans and the national government. So this is what the timelines have happened. till 2018 and 19, which I'll not go into depth, but this has been Jaipur Declaration, Delhi Declaration, and declarations from other states too. Now, working ahead, I'm just rushing off because it's the last presentation and my earlier speakers have covered a lot. If you look at the conclusions, there is no doubt that antibiotics are important as for humans for animal health care, because without that, you cannot control microbes and infectious diseases. However, at times, we do agree that misuse of antibiotics may happen in both human and animal health care. Although animal health care can play a decreasing role in AMR, decreasing the AMR, but the core does not lie here. It's a multifactorial area. We need to educate our farmers, especially in terms of the practicality, the withdrawal period adherence. We have the withdrawal period already there, but it is adhered to a lesser level in the field. Adherence to the same will reduce antibiotic probability in milk as well as meat. Judicious and prudent use of antibiotics and awareness amongst veterinary professionals also is required. But yet another very important requirement for us is diagnostic and surveillance infrastructure. We do not have that infrastructure to diagnose which organism the animal is getting affected with, which antibiotic will treat it. So that is another major important requirement which needs to be addressed through Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Health and Dairy. It comes to the end that thank you, and we are responsible and we need to be responsibly using prudently and judiciously antibiotics. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatia, for an excellent presentation and highlighting the crux of the problem in the AMR and the role played by both the human and the animals. And many of the agenda flagged by you are very genuine and valid. We hope that they are addressed with our efforts in future to come. So with this, we close the session of the learned speakers and give it this mic to Mr. Teng for onward deliberation of the panel's experts.
Thank you, Dr. Verma, and thank you all there have been a number of questions from on the earlier speakers, but anyway, because of paucity of time, we will try to address those questions maybe through the very elite panel we have. We have learned panelists and experts from the industry. We have Dr. Arun Atre, President of Zydus Animal Health. We have Dr. Day, CEO of Optima Life Sciences. We have Mr. Pasricha, who is the Chairman of Feed Supplement Subcommittee, as well as the ex-Managing Director of Virbac. We have Dr. S. Hazra, who is from IIT Roorkee, and then a very special expert on who is working on various alternatives. And we also have from IPC, Dr. Pandey, who has agreed to be part of this very special panel, who will be sharing his thoughts. Now I'll go straight away, since we have a limited time, I'll straight away, so that we want to bring in some conclusions to this elaborate discussion we have conducted so far. I'll go first to Dr. Hazra. And Dr. Hazra, I think you wanted to share some of your experiences about various alternatives and the experiences you have in terms of developing new therapies as an alternative to antibiotics.
Thank you. First of all, I thank the organizers to make me part of the panel. I don't like when I say alternative, it's not alternative to antibiotic. Our research is actually go to the mechanistic way. We try to understand actually what is happening and what are the enzymes who are involving in this resistance and how the changes are happening in the molecular level. So to start with, here I have listened the experts, and one thing which was very prominent and which I also feel from the way we do the research, when we go to the veterinary people to get their data inconsistency is a very important matter here. Let's come to one example. Suppose they are doing screening with a very common drug called beta-lactam series. Someone is doing research with penicillin, someone is doing with carbanicillin. So they don't, mostly follow the CLSI standard, and they are not using the same compounds. So what is the problem? The problem is, as you guys have told, antibiotic resistance problem is a huge problem. There are multi-sectors. So the data which should be coming, where the database should be developed, there should be very common, drugs and common rules of standards would be established. Unfortunately, that is not there. So a lot of research is going on in India, but first of all, they could not be compared together. Secondly, and most importantly, they are not documented in a common platform. So the whole data which all the entire scientists from different sectors are doing is not coming in one platform. So there is a very urgent need to develop a common platform, to develop certain rules so that people who are doing research would follow those, and then only it could be coming, so that everyone follow same compounds, same CLSI standard and all, same protocols to work on. And nowadays, if you see, when you are dealing with a big data, okay, if you have a good consistent data, you could have used for new technologies like prediction through machine learning, and that's where the future needs, especially for those huge data, to stand towards understanding and towards progressing to use them on a common platform. So we need that data consistency, we need that common platform. Everyone talked about initiatives. If it is possible, to include, if you see, Dr. Kamini Walia talked about, Dr. Jyoti Mistry talked about, and in all this, Ajit Singh Jadhav talked about. In all these different sectors, they are talking about including poultry sectors, they are talking about including medical sectors. Unfortunately, people, I am in IIT, so I understand there are very efficient technology people who are actually working on the understanding the mechanism, which could have very contributive to understand where the problem is, and it could be solved in a better way if we could have a possibility of a common team to be developed. So that is one point. Another thing I was talking about is the involvement of pharma companies. Unfortunately, the antimicrobial sector is not like drugs developed in the other sectors, like, let's say, for chronic diseases like hypertension, high sugar, or diseases like cancer. Why? Because of this antimicrobial resistance, a drug developed is going under the scrutiny of Mother Nature. So Mother Nature don't want the bacteria to be destroyed, because bacteria is unfortunately also a creation made by Mother Nature. So whatever good drug is coming, it had to have a fate of drug resistance. Mother Nature will push bacterial enzymes to mutate, so that ultimately it would create drug resistance. What I mean is, antimicrobial drug resistance is something which is a never-ending process. You produce a good drug, you work on the mechanism, you go to the transition state, you understand the intrinsic property of the enzyme, then you get a drug which probably be less prone to resistance, but you cannot make sure that it is not prone to resistance. It will eventually produce resistance. So that's one reason. It's not in India, in the entire world. Recently we were listening to Nobel laureate Ada Yonath. She was also talking about same thing. The pharma sector in the entire world is not interested to invest here, and it's not like something we could not blame the pharma sector for, because when I am investing something, I definitely want a angle where I could get my money returned. So in antimicrobial research, it is mostly the responsibility of our government to come forward to develop, which government is definitely doing, but we need more contribution, not even in India, worldwide, because this is something which does not give a, I would say, profit angle. So
Right.
that is very important. And on the other hand, I request pharmaceutical companies who like represent this here to find alternatives. When I say alternatives, you know, if you look at China, a lot of like Chinese companies are there who don't make product, who make intermediates which are used in multiple research. They make them in large amount and sell it to the whole world and get profit out of that, and which they use to run the drug development, because drug development is needed for the existence of human community. Already if you look at the antimicrobial development, last 10-11 years there is no new drugs, and without no new drugs, you know, you all are experts, you know what is going on.
See, I think
COVID have already shown us. Yeah.
Dr. Hazra, I think you made very valuable points about, you know, bringing in data consistency, creating a common platform, involvement of pharmaceutical companies, and also finding alternatives. I think you have made four very valuable points, and thanks for your valuable comments, very useful ones. I'll go to Dr. Atre now, and Dr. Atre, what do you think? And the industry has been a very responsible one. So, what do you think the measures have been taken by the industry to promote prudent and judicious use of antibiotics, especially with respect to animal health industry?
Thank you, Vijay. First of all, let me address some of the points which were raised by the earlier speakers. And I think one of the point, what was raised by Dr. Kamini, that, more use of the narrow spectrum antibiotics. If you look at today's animal health, the sector across the country, with almost 67,000 veterinary hospitals, diagnostic centers, para-veterinary clinics, and almost an equal number of veterinarians, it is extremely, extremely difficult, though every presenter has touched upon that point, that diagnostic facilities need to be there, for the field veterinarians. And then only they can decide about whether they want to go for a narrow spectrum or the broad spectrum antibiotic. So that's the one challenge what the field veterinarians have been facing. And we all know for the last few decades of our experience that in the field, in veterinary sector, I'm talking about only the treatment part of it, that they are not using antibiotics simply for the sake of it. Whenever there is an actual need of the antibiotic, in the animal health sector, they have been using. Unfortunately, what is happening, and I think we are not even able to address, we have been talking about that point, that antibiotics need to be controlled, means it has to be sold only through the prescription, and whether it is human being or in animal health. But animal health, I can give some sort of to some extent, some guarantee that people have been still very judicious when it comes to the field veterinarians and others also, that when there is actually a need, they go for it. But look at the antibiotic use in the human being. I'm not blaming anyone. I think it's a problem. I think we all need to address this, and it is I think very good point Dr. Hajra has also raised, that there has to be a holistic approach. You can work in silos. If you work in silos, you won't be able to address this. But antibiotics in the human being, and that's where the problem is, that human beings means you, me, everyone, those who are in the animal health industry or in any industry, we are equally impacted with the antibiotic resistance. But still, a very basic thing, we have not been able to control the use of the antibiotic in the field. So the prescription is one such thing which I think needs to be controlled. It has to be not an OTC product. It has to be a prescription product, and it should be strictly enforced. Number one. Number two, coming to the animal health industry, the point which you have raised, ever since we have made this INFAH, and you know this, that we have made separate subcommittees, because we realize that our job is not only for the commercial advantage or the aspect of animal health industry. Our responsibility is across all stakeholders, and our stakeholders are the consumers. Those are human beings. Our stakeholders are the dairy farmers, poultry farmers, the people in between. Everyone is a part of the whole chain. And we started, collaborating with the different regulators, whether it was Ministry of Agriculture, then with the CIDESCO, IPC, and all other bodies, including FSSAI. We have been so closely working with them with a very clear objective that collectively we need to address this problem, because the problem is real. We can't say that problem is not there. The problem is real. And if you recall that when it was a case of withdrawal limits to be set for the different drugs, INFAH was in the forefront. In fact, not only we supported it, we advocated it, and we took it to our members in the industry that this needs to be mentioned on the thing. And not only that, all your visual aids, all the promotion our people have been doing in the field, they need to be promoting that this is the withdrawal period. So I think I don't think that the way animal health industry in a structured manner has been working towards ensuring that there is a judicious use. I have my own doubt that any other industry has been working so scientifically. Yes, still there are problems. There are issues, as I said, that we don't have the infrastructure support, which needs to be, the government has to support that. But on the part of the industry, we have been part of every platform. Nowhere we have been talking about what is the commercial loss to the, the industry. And if you remember, even for the colistin, one single molecule colistin, when we had, I remember when we had at IVRI, one of such One Health seminar, and one of the presenters from ICMR said that the colistin is something which is need to be preserved for the human treatment. And we came back, and we all office bearers of INFAH, we sat together, and we realized that even if it is officially permitted in animal health, we should voluntarily withdraw this. And look at this, the type of the losses what we had in terms of the turnover for some of the companies. But everyone, right from 1 to Z, everyone, all members were very supportive of it. In fact, that ban came much later. So I think in the animal health industry, I can foresee that we have been very, very responsive. Yes, we need to do more, and we will continue to work with the regulators. But my only request is, and to the medical fraternity, whether it is agriculture also, this is another area which is normally not gets included in most of our deliberations, where also the antibiotics are being used. And one of the seminars, we came to know that it's been registered as an antifungal, actually, one of the antibiotics. So I think in a One Health manner, animal health industry is very forthcoming. We would continue to work. Dr. Yadav has made very important points that, and I think all presenters, they're saying it's non-conclusive. So I think to blame only one industry would not be a fair thing to do. So industry is very, very proactive, and that's the only thing I can assure to the panelists and as well as the people, those who have been on the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atre. I think you made very valuable comments. I'll go to Dr. Day. Dr. Day, the poultry industry, has been many times targeted for indiscriminate use of antibiotics or antibiotic growth promoters. A lot of media attention has also gone into the sector, unwanted and sometimes even baseless. What is your reaction, and what do you feel how the industry is reacting to this?
Well, Vijay, thank you, Dr. Verma. So I think the answer to this question has been attended to or reflected by various speakers. I would also just one point I would like to say here, that these legislations, the advisories for an AMR is good, but then what is need of the hour? there is a need for a massive extension program, that public awareness. What is happening today? If you see this pandemic in February 2020, did you ever know that wearing mask is a mandatory? The civil society, by and large, is always working to the threat perception. If you take the AMR issue, now threat of AMR is kind of latent. People don't realize upfront, but then we know the visible threat. So I think if we have to include poultry industry, they're at the receiving end because their data is inadequate and there are various media coverage. But I would say, if you see, I have been associated with this industry for more than 30 years. No, usage of antibiotic comes with a cost. And today, most of the people selling a branded chicken, they claim it's antibiotic free. So I think there's a massive extension required at the farmer level, the producer level, that yes, antibiotic usage comes at a price. It's also impact human health. So I would say the awareness, when the farmers, they realize that usage of antibiotic is not good, I think there's a resistance automatically expected from the farmers itself. So I would say beyond legislation, beyond advisory, you should take this as a massive initiative extension program to the producers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day. I think you made a valuable point. I think we also need to engage with, in order to execute your suggestion, we will need to engage with the state animal health authorities as well as the central authorities, including DADF and ICR, because extension is both a central and a state activity, and we will need to engage with the state authorities to execute this program. So I think you have made a very valuable point. Dr. Pandey, I think this is, and also to Dr. Jyoti Misri, one of the thoughts which has been coming forward across all presentations has been about the diagnostic facilities. And we still, as a country, we are lacking the diagnostic facilities. So Dr. Pandey, what do you think, what steps and what measures do you think we should be taking with respect to increasing the diagnostic facilities in the country?
Yes, sir. Thanks for sir, organizer, INFAH, Dr. Rishendra Verma sir, Dr. Vijay, and Nitin Bhatia sir, for giving opportunity on this panel discussion. So as concerned the IP, for all the antibiotics, well-developed methods are there for the testing of this antibiotics for the human as well as the veterinary products. And second thing, sir, from my side, one of the suggestions that for this AMR, we have to increase the awareness, appropriate use of the antibiotics, infection control, vaccination, policy, regulation, and surveillance. And last, the standard therapeutic guidelines should be there. And one more thing, sir, a lot of herbal drugs we have screened for the antibiotics compared with that. So that this type of antibiotics, herbal drugs, which are screened very good antibiotics, it should be converted into form of its use as a drug. So that we can reduce that part of the use of the major antibiotics. So, and these are my views, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. Dr. Misri, what role DADF or ICR can provide, in enhancing the diagnostic facilities in the country? What should be your roadmap for this?
Yeah, we are working on point of care diagnostics and DIVA capability diagnostic tests. So I think first is we have taken some research projects where we are working. For example, in the FMD, we have been working on the DIVA compatibility tests also, and we have been able to find those tests also, and we are using those tests in the field also. And similarly for other diseases also, because for any control programs, for any control program which is being implemented by the government of India, so it is on the basis of the diagnostics. If we have reliable diagnostics, so we can assess the status of the disease, we can come up with the valuable data, authentic data. So more research R&D funding should be there, and we need to recognize the infrastructure and capability, because we don't have. There are a number of diseases which needs to be taken care in the animal sector. It is now not the scenario in the human health what we have seen, because in human health, what Dr. I think Hajra or the earlier speaker, he was saying, it is more in the human sector what Dr. Atri was emphasizing. So we have been able to see that MRSA isolates only, we are getting 10 to 15%, but it is being projected 30%. So that is not the real, we can say, the reality in the human sector, where we have seen that it is more, because we have a lot of data from the northeastern region also, in the piggery sector also. Yes, wherever there is intensification system being used, we are observing that in those scenarios we are having more more AMR pathogens. So you are raising specific point for the diagnostics. So sir, we can work in these areas. And for example, presently we are taking for LSD, so that is a burning problem. So we are working for African swine fever also. So these two diseases, and plus we have taken some projects in the area of the COVID-19. So we have 3-4 projects in the diagnostics, in the vaccine. In the diagnostics, we are taking different scenarios, and for the vaccines also. So yes, diagnostics, because we require them for getting the authentic data from the surveillance we are carrying, or whether it is sero monitoring, whether sero surveillance studies are being carried. And because epidemiology and these data for informatics, they are very important.
Right.
So we are working in this. Yes, effective collaboration from our industry partners is required, and we have worked in many projects also. I think we have worked with adjuvants and other.
Right, right. Thank you, Dr. Mistry. I think very valuable. We're very happy to hear that we are working on diagnostics for LSD and M, which is a burning problem. So I think that will be very, very useful at the farmer level. I now go to Mr. Basrija. Just wanted to learn. This AMR has been a global issue. It's not specific to India. All the countries worldwide, whether it is across Europe and US, they are also dealing with the same issue, and they have also, come up with various thoughts and ideas. So what are the thoughts and learnings from the global space, which we can, think of implementing in the country, or learning from them and practicing in the country? Your views.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think we need to realistically benchmark ourselves, not only in terms of what they have been using or what they have stopped using, but also in terms of conditions. We cannot compare the rearing conditions of Europe with the rearing conditions of India. We cannot compare the affordability of an American farmer with the Indian farmer. But what can be compared is that how far they have been successful. Have they reverted back? And if they have been successful, what are the alternative methodology they have adopted? Now, stretching this point in a little far from the core topic is that from where we come to know that there is a resistance. The birthplace is the hospital, human hospital, where the cases are reported. And we all know by certain Indian hospital, most of the hospitals are loaded with microbes. Is there any SOP for removing those microbes? In poultry, when Dr. Dev was talking and somebody else was talking, very good point in the poultry is that whenever you change the birds one lot, you disinfect the shed before bringing in the next lot. But is it being doing in changing the patient in the hospital? One bed is empty, second patient occupies it. So in my opinion, this area also needs attention, because this area is very good taken care abroad in sophisticated hospitals. I know anybody from my experience, this person was suffering from arthritis. He went to America for knee replacement. I said, why? He says, because of the hospital acquired infections in India. Although surgery technique is the same. So if we benchmark ourselves, we need to benchmark with the other countries on all the parameters, including a very important factor from where this all information is coming is the hospital. Somebody talked about antimicrobial stewardship guidelines. I think this should be included in the guidelines, how they change the patient. And what is the reason? Like, for example, we do a lot of epidemiological studies. Can we do a epidemiological study of a antimicrobial resistance in a particular hospital? Wherever that disease emerges, how the resistance of this microbe is coming in this hospital. So these are the few steps I'll suggest in addition to what we have already discussed.
I think you made a very, very valid point about the conditions in the rest of the world, and India is very, very different. I think Dr. Atri wants to make a comment.
I think Mr. Satish Pasricha has raised very important points. Sometimes there is a knee-jerk reaction. Some problem happens and suddenly we start blaming somebody, or we want to follow someone. And he has very rightly pointed it out that when you start comparing yourself, please also see the environment, see the practices there. And if I have rightly remember Dr. Nitin Bhatia's presentation, 3% of the antibiotics are still being used in Germany. Now look at the livestock population in Germany and in India, and we have almost touching 12% plus. So by simply eradicating or removing certain things, we are not going to solve the problem. Maybe then the use of other antibiotics are going to go up. And unfortunately, as Dr. Hajira said, that no major R&D investments happen in the antibiotics, obviously because they spend more in the lifestyle diseases. In animal health, there is no lifestyle disease. It's everything has to do with the health. So I think the point which needs to be taken into consideration is that when we start comparing our internal practices in India with maybe Europe or maybe some other developed countries and all, we also need to see the other relevant factors, which I believe that this point needs serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atri. I think we are already a little 15 minutes over our schedule. This is such a vibrant topic to be discussed. There are a lot of views across, but I'm sure today's deliberation with presentations from all sectors have been very, very useful, very wonderful, and this panel discussion has been as also kind of an eye opener and bringing focus on the key points. And the key is that it brings in a lot of perspectives which are very, very focused on animal health. Before we go to Dr. Kalita for word of thanks, I go back to Dr. Rishendra Verma for his concluding remarks, and then we go to Dr. Kalita for a word of thanks. There have been a number of questions on the chat panel. Since paucity of time is there, we'll try to address these questions to the concerned speaker and get back to them. And over to you, Dr. Verma, and then to Dr. Kalita.
Thank you. I think I have taken note of the points raised, very, very valuable points, and this hospital microbe load is many things are not seen, are deficient from the policymakers, and he is very right that the load is too much in the hospitals. Everybody has made a very categorically important point, and we are fortunate to have Dr. Jyoti Mishri. She may be receiving a good feedback by arranging this webinar, although Dr. Kamni has left, and Dr. Hazare and Dr. Pandey. So before Dr. Kalita extends the vote of thanks, let us have a screenshot. So I request everybody to open the video. Please open your video. Dr. Hazare? Dr. Hazare? Hazra?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
And only one is missing, huh? But
So we have taken a screenshot, so we'll be sharing with you, Dr. Verma.
You have taken? Okay, okay. Thank you. Now, may I request Dr. Kalita to extend a vote of thanks?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Honorable Dr. Rishindra Verma, eminent scientist and founder secretary IAVR, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of INFAH and IAVR, extend a hearty vote of thanks to all eminent speakers for gracing today's webinar and making it very interesting and meaningful. A very big thank you to Dr. Kamini Walia from ICMR for her excellent presentation, sharing us the initiative of ICMR in containment of AMR. Our deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Jyoti Mistry, Principal Scientist ICAR, for her very valuable and informative presentation on global response on AMR and India's plan for its containment. I express our sincere thanks to Dr. Ajit Singh Yadav, Head and Principal Scientist, Central Avian Research Institute, for giving us an excellent coverage on AMR scenario in Indian poultry. Many thanks to Dr. Nitin Bhatia for highlighting the ground reality of animal healthcare practice with respect to veterinary use of antibiotics. I express heartfelt thanks to all the learned panelists, Dr. Arun Atre, MD, Zyda CHL, Dr. D.K. Day, CEO Optimal Life Science, Mr. Satish Pasrija, Chairman, INFAH Feed Supplement Committee, and ex-MD, Virvec India, Dr. Manoj Pandey, Scientific Officer, Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, and Dr. Shugata Hazara, Professor from IIT Roorkee, for their valuable insights and thought-provoking opinions. I sincere thanks to organizing committee members, IAVR and INFAH, Dr. Rishindra Verma, Founder Secretary IAVR, Mr. Vijay Tang, President INFAH, Dr. Arun Atre, First President INFAH Managing Committee, and a special thanks to Dr. Nitin Bhatia for managing all necessary arrangement for this webinar. Thank you, everyone, once again. Have a great day ahead.
Before we conclude, I would like to thank once again very profuse thank to our very energetic president, Mr. Vijay Tang of INFAH, and I think Dr. Rishindra would join me in thanking him. He's been so energetic, and there is no gestation period for him to organize anything. So I think a big round of applause for Mr. Vijay Tang as well.
It's all teamwork. It's all teamwork.
And of course, Dr. Rishindra Verma, he's been so inspiring and so energetic. As I said in the beginning, we get a lot of energy from him. And even if we get half of the energy what he has, I think we can do much more than what we are able to do as of now. Thank you very much. Sorry for my intrusion during the vote of thanks.
Oh, kind of you. Thanks a lot from the IAVR and FEVA.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mishri.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Verma.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Yadavji. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Arunji. Thank you, Dr. Jyoti.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we offline now? Nathan, are we offline now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We are offline now?
Yeah, man. Yes, sir.
Okay.